Give us your name, rank, and branch of service.
Name is John Meyers. Everybody calls me Jack. I was actually in 2 branches. I did 11 and a half years with the Air Force and 10 years with the Army.
Alrighty.
And I retired as an E8 Master Sergeant.
What was your area of expertise?
My first stint was with the Air Force. I was trained to be an operations intelligence specialist, and that's what I did most of my career in the military.
When did you serve?
Well, I graduated from high school in '66, and of course the draft was going on big time. My parents told me at least go and talk to some recruiters. Don't wait for the draft, so I did that. I decided on the Air Force. I tested high with their testing, so I enlisted in the Air Force. The night I left for basic training, my mother brought my draft notice. Yeah. And after I got overseas on my first tour, they came up with a lottery system. My number was 9, so it didn't matter which way I went. I was going to be there. So.
Where were you assigned originally? Basic.
Basic training was in Lackland Air Force Base, Texas. 6 weeks. From there, I was sent to Denver, Colorado, and the intel school was at Lowry Air Force Base, in actually Aurora, Colorado, which is a suburb.
Okay. And you were eventually assigned or deployed
Overseas.
Okay.
Intelligence was a, if you want to call it that, intelligence was a critical career field. They told us in school that we were all going. So I knew leaving Denver that I would be going overseas to Vietnam.
Okay, alrighty. Whereabouts in Vietnam or around that area?
Southeast Asia, was I?
Yeah.
I started out in Tan Son Nhut. They got a request because they needed intel with the 355th Tactical Fighter Wing in Tak Ly, Thailand, so I got sent there. While I was at the 355th, our job was mission planning, surface-to-air missile plotting, targeting. Our unit flew F-105s. The F-4 was probably about 10 years old, and the F-105 was about 25 years old at the time. When I was there, we planned the mission that bombed the Domer Bridge. The Domer Bridge ran across the Red River into downtown Hanoi, and the Hanoi Hilton sat right at the end of the bridge. So we took out 3 spans of the bridge and never touched the prisoner of war camp. So that was a good thing. And we would review gun camera film, especially if our guy hit a MiG, one of our guys took down a MiG. We reviewed the film to make sure it was a good kill, as we used to refer to it. While I was there, they sent a request. They needed a volunteer to work electronic warfare. 41st Tactical Electronic Warfare was down the flight line from us. They flew EB-66 radar jammers. They flew unarmed, and the reason why is with armament on, the aircraft was so heavy they couldn't have landed at most of the bases overseas. So they took all the armament off of them, and they flew into North Vietnam, not all the way to where the targeting area was, but nothing into the interior where they could drop chaff and mess with North Vietnamese radars and SAM placements. And I did that, and I was part of the COAC reporting unit that we did back then was all key punch. So I made sure, and then it all got sent to the Pentagon. Towards the end, the last 3 weeks I was there, 4 weeks I was there, about the last month I was there, the infamous F-111 came in, was stationed at Tak Ly, and the F-111 was the new aircraft to beat all aircraft. Pilot and navigator sat side by side. They could go from a straight wing to a delta wing. They had GPS where they could fly terrain. Just push a button and it would take them. Well, after the third aircraft crashed into a mountain going into North Vietnam, they decided it didn't work over there. And but I went down there to help them set up their intel shop. So that's why I did my first tour.
Wow. Okay. As far as while you were deployed, what was the toughest situation that you faced?
My second tour, I was at Udon, Thailand. We were up on the Laotian and Cambodian borders there, and we used to get a lot of sapper attacks, things like that. The scariest thing, actually, was we had an F-4 coming in, and the hydraulic system had been shot out on the mission. And as he was coming in, he had just touched his wheels down, the hydraulic system went completely out. The aircraft went up about 500 feet into the air. The navigator punched out at 500 feet. The plane then went upside down. The pilot ejected, and he ended up going through the roof of the base theater.
Oh my goodness.
And the aircraft landed about 150 yards from my hooch. It killed 12 guys and AFTN, that's the Armed Forces Radio and Television Service that was on the base. Wiped out half the hooch area, took out about 4 or 5 Mamasans. Just all I remember when the explosion went up from the JP-4, it knocked me right off my feet, because I was just getting out of my bunk to take a shower, because I worked from I think 4 to midnight or something like that. I had part of my job was to bring in what they called a frag, or a fragmentary order, and break it down so we knew where our recon people were going to be flying, because I was at that time I was assigned to technical recon.
Amazing story. Let's switch gears. What's your fondest memory from being in the service?
Coming home, obviously. Alive. I had some great guys I worked with. The best guy I ever worked with was a guy named Dave Blees, and Dave was from Kalamazoo. And he had been in, got out for a couple years, and came back in again. He decided to make a career. And he and I worked together in the intel shop there at 432nd, and he ended up pulling augmentee duty for several weeks. So that meant he had to put on his helmet, grab a 16, and he worked perimeter with the security police. And his wife was pregnant. And she gave birth. The message came down to our unit that his wife had given birth. And I went to the security police, told them what was going on, and I wanted to go be out there with them. So they took me out on a Jeep. When I went out, I sat with them for about 25 minutes. Never said a word to him, because I wanted to see the reaction on his face when the colonel come out and said, "You're relieved. Here's what's going on." And the look on his face, the joy in his face when he found out he was a dad, it was just. Yeah, Dave, Crazy Dave, he and I did a lot together.
Did you stay in contact with him after?
We did for a while. He ended up getting stationed in Minot, North Dakota, and then we kind of lost track. At one point, though, I located him near Kalamazoo. After I got out of the Air Force, I was out several years. I went back into the reserves, and I did 8 years with the Air Force. I topped out my rank with the Air Force, and I needed to find an E8 slot so I could get promoted to E8. And the only E8 slots they had at Selfridge was in the mess hall and administration. I don't cook, I don't type. So I found a intel slot with an infantry unit, 70th Division out in Livonia. So I switched over and did my last 10 years with the Army. While out at Camp Custer one time, I thought, you know, this is near Kalamazoo, so I got their phone book out and I found Dave Blease in phone book. Now, it could have been his dad, I don't know. Didn't say senior, junior, or anything, just said David Blease. So in the middle of the weekend, we were there for our 2-week camp, and in the middle of the weekend, I drove up to the address and rang the doorbell, knocked on the door, no answer. I decided not to call the phone number because back then we didn't have the cell phones like we do now, and but that was an attempt.
That was a good try.
Yeah, but I still got it, the memories.
I hear you.